What's going on today, GLG crew? It's GLG Dan here, and today we got another video for you. Today we're going to be going over an in-depth guide on how to play Bonney and kind of looking at my deck list for it, especially going into the OP08 format. I know pre-release is going on right now, so this is the perfect timing to put this out there. I am really excited for Bonney, at least coming into this next set of OA with the new bans of Red Purple Law and Lucci Stage. I think Bonney has a really good shot this set. Alright guys, so we're about to get into the in-depth guide to Bonney. Been playing Bonney all set 7. Was really excited for this deck. I played a lot of Red Green Law before, so playing Supernovas again is super exciting. There's a lot of really good cards in this deck. For those of you who have already checked it out, I put up a case tournament, at least a winner case tournament Bonney deck profile before. We'll go over the deck list right now again. I made a slight tweak to that list, but a lot of that video kind of talked about the ratios for the most part. But I'm going to go through them all over again, though, for you guys. So for the first slide, this is the 7.5 list I've been running as of late to all my local tournaments for the most part. The biggest difference compared to this one to the deck list that I put out a week ago was the 8 cost kit. So I was initially running 3 10 cost Dofies and 1 8 drop kit. I tried my best to leave it in there and try to keep using it, but man, I just didn't like it. It never was good for me, at least for the way I played specifically. It just did not work out, and I'll kind of go into as to why I ended up cutting the 8 cost kit though. But this is the list we're looking at for the 7.5. But this isn't going to be around much longer. Pre-release is coming out, so I kind of put together. It hasn't been tested too much, but what it looks like to be my set 8 list. This is what we're looking at for this. We're keeping the Baby 5 package. As of right now, I'm just in theory, when I'm theory crafting, I want to keep the Baby 5 engine because I love the Donquixote high end. 8 or 10 drop Dofi, great card. Wins you almost all your games. Is a game winning card. I've seen some lists that run it at 2 and don't even run the Baby 5 searcher at all. And I, I might be maybe I'm misunderstanding the concept and the idea, but in every single game I played and against every deck, you always drop this card, and it doesn't matter how many copies in your hand. You play every single copy every single time, and so that's why I love the Don Quixote Pirates package. You have ways to search out the 2Ks like the Baby 5 and everything, the Viola. Some of the ratio cuts we did because we did include 2 new cards. One is the 5 cost carrot from this new set in OP08. For those who don't know, it's on play and when attacking, you get to freeze one of your opponent's 7 cost or less characters. And so it being an on play and a when attacking, this card is so strong. And a 7 cost or less, it's crazy. If it hit 8, it would be broken. But thankfully they didn't do that, to balance it out. But this card is insane. This allows for crazy tempo, and not just that. So now you're running for the ratio changes, I cut a Bonney and then I cut 2 Rosinantes to make room for 3 carrots. Now, though, you're running way more 5 costs now. You're running a total of about, I think, what is that, 10? Yeah, 10 5 costs. So that means 8 cost Rosinante. You have a lot more targets for that guy. I was thinking about trying to fit in X-Drake in, but this is the problem I'm kind of running into trying to fit in the Don Quixote Pirates package with the Supernovas. Now that you're including Carrot, and not just that too, I also included the Electrical Luna. This is one of the new cards that came in 08. It is a Minx card. It's activate main for 3 Dawn. All of your opponent's characters with a 7 cost or less that are rested, they stay rested and they don't refresh during your opponent's refresh phase. This card is super strong. It's a new list, but I'm wavering between whether or not I want to cut it or run it. This card was used a lot or at least in the East, over in Japan, or the other regions over there, because of Red Purple Law. A lot of all their cards are 7 cost or less. It hits the entire deck. It's good in that regard. It's also good against Blue Dofi, but now that Red Purple Law is not going to be around, there might not be a need for it. Might not be a need to drop it, but it's still a strong card though. Don't get me wrong, but I do think that maybe if I do end up cutting it, I cut the Lunas down. Maybe I put another 10 cost in or put another 9 cost in, and then maybe put even maybe a fourth carrot or another Rosinante blocker just to up the ratios for the Donquixote Pirates package for those. But yeah, so for the high end, everything else is pretty much the same. Three Hody. I know some of you guys in the comments last time were questioning the three Hody, but it's been working for me. I've been seeing it when I need it, and my biggest problem is seeing too many in my hand. Then it just turns dead. It's good to hold on to, but it's just the way I play specifically. My hand size does tend to be a little bit on the lower end. And so having that dead card in my hand, it's a little tough, but I mean, it's a great card to go for game, but three's been working out great for me. And another thing right now, this is all conceptual, but two Rosinante, two Zoro, three Dofi. I've been thinking about maybe even upping the Rosinante count, but if I do that, I might add maybe a couple extras too as well. It's just about me whittling down the ratios for the most part. Obviously, when I'm testing it out in 08, I haven't had a chance to test it out on the sim, unfortunately. But when set 8 drops, I'll be able to kind of cut the ratios down. I'll give you guys an updated list as to it. But for right now, I think this is the ratios I'll be running when the set opens up. Really excited. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great. So this next section, we're going to talk about 8 cost kid and why I kind of think 8 cost kid is bad. At least for me and my playstyle. I know a lot of lists run it. People swear by it. They run this plus I think the Bartolomeo blocker too as well. I just think there is just too many ways this card can be answered. Black, easy, cost down. It's super easy for them to be able to remove it. It's an 8 cost gecko play away from dying, unless you have like the Rosinante 2-drop blocker. But even then, it's too brutal. Like blue has red rock, and then or they drop the 10 cost Kaido and swing over it eventually at some point. Yeah, you could put blockers up, but it's just too tough. Along with that too, yellow, they can 8 cost cat it back to your life, or they go Rygo into removing it. Along with that too is, I kind of mentioned before in the playstyle, I play very, very conservative with my life. I counter out early out of small swings that I can especially against decks that like blue. The pudding is so brutal. So when you have the 8 cost kid, you're typically kind of taking your life haphazardly, so you can have a lot of cards in hand, and that way you can counter out to save it if they're trying to swing over it. That's kind of how the 8 cost kid is so strong. But when you're playing against decks like blue, you can't really drop this guy with a handful of cards, because even though pudding's not searchable, they for some reason they always have it. At least everyone that I play against always has the pudding. So you have to play around the pudding. And if you drop the 8 cost kid with like 3 life, or maybe even less, like you're sitting at 5 cards, 6 cards in hand, it's gonna get swung over. It's gonna get removed. It's not good for that portion. And because I like to play more conservative, I like to keep my life high. Putting this out there just prevents them swinging my life sometimes into getting a card. But I play with high life so that way I can drop the 9 cost Zoro, the Hody Jones to take the other life too as well, to be able to make sure I'm not down too low to where they can go for game against me. And 10 drop Dofi, you want to play all those high end cards that I had on the list prior when you're at healthy life. Whereas 8 cost kid is just counterintuitive, where you're wanting to take your life, and I just think that therefore it just doesn't make it very good. I could be wrong. You guys could tell me in the comments section if I'm wrong, but I think I've tried testing it out so much, and it just would sit in my hand all game long as a dead card, or I pitch it off a 0 cost event, or if I play it out, I'm already ahead by a lot, whereas a 10 drop Dofi would have done the same, or 9 cost Aura would have done even better in that case in this scenario. I just think that it's too easy to remove, and for the type of playstyle I play, it doesn't work for me, unfortunately. So that's the why I ended up cutting it. But if you guys have good reasoning as to why I should put it back in, drop it in the comments below. Let me know. Let me know if I'm wrong. I'm all open to different ideas, definitely. But as of right now, this is where I stand. So now let's go ahead and take a look at some of the best decks going into OP08. This is kind of what I think's the meta is going to be, at least post ban list. Obviously Red Purple Law's not here. It's something interesting. I'm really excited for because no one has seen a format like this before. The East didn't have a chance to do this because their ban happened in 8.5 and now they're already in 9. And so for us, it's first time experiencing it. And then it'll be interesting to watch to see what kind of tops the other. I think Bonney has a good matchup into all of these for the most part. Besides a select few, but we'll go over them. But Monkey D. Luffy, Black Yellow Luffy, it's with Bonney. If you see the Bonney 5 cause, you put out an 8 cause Rosinante with that. You stun a Don, 9 cause Zoro. There's a lot of outs in the deck that can beat this deck, and that's why I think it will be able to compete. Rob Lucci, now that Stage isn't there, they're less likely to remove your high end. And if you play it right against Lucci, you drop the Hawkins, drop the 8 cost Rosinante plus a 5 cost. You can tempo them out, and then you freeze their board with a 10 cost Dofi, and you call it a day. Obviously, it's still going to be a little rough because, if they see the removal and you don't see your cards, you need to see like the Hawkins. It's going to be a little rough, but I do think Bonnie has a better chance now against Rob Lucci. Vince Smoke Reiju, I think Bonnie has a great time against this. I played this matchup a few times here and there, and it's been very successful. 10 cost Dofi, great card. Run it at 3 or 4. And that's why I run the Baby 5 package, so that way I can be consistent and be able to hit decks like these with the 10 cost Dofi. Gecko Moria, with same kind of concept. Hawkins is great, 8 cost Rosinante, but really in this matchup, 10 drop Dofi, freezing the leader, stopping their leader ability. It's insane. It's not as strong as Lucci. I wouldn't be as worried as Lucci. Obviously, they're going to flood board, but that's to your favor because your leader ability responds to your opponent's board. So it's good in that aspect. Blue Doflamingo. So this is going to be probably Bonnie's worst matchup. I hate playing this, but there are ways to play around it. We're gonna go over it in a little bit here, kind of what cards you're gonna need to look for, what kind of curve you're gonna go over, in order to win against that matchup. And now, obviously they trigger out, they beat you, but to beat this deck, you put out 9 cost Zoro. They don't have a way to answer it unless it's the Raigo it. 10 drop Dofi, insane, freeze all of their big bodies, and then they have no way to answer it really, and so you're just gonna beat them just by having a big board at that point. Nami, this one's skeptical. I probably would say it could be scary. If you see 9 cost Zoro, obviously you're in a better spot than most, but it's just about swinging 9s or higher. If you can swing 9, swing 9. Don't swing any less than that. Really focus on getting your board wide, putting out big bodies. Hody Jones is great in this matchup. You get to tap 2 active Dawn. That's wonderful. That's great. That's fire. So there are outs to against Nami, and there are ways to beat it. But obviously, it's dependent on what their game looks like, their game of solitaire they play with themselves, so it's weird like that. But other than that, though, other than Doflamingo and Lucci, I do think that Bonnie has a place in the meta. At least I personally think it's up there with Luffy, Rob Lucci, and then it's Bonnie as the third spot as the best decks in the format. That's what I think. Is it a little biased? Sure, I don't. Yeah, tell me if it's biased or not. I don't care. But yeah, so rotating from there, we're gonna go into talking about the blue matchup specifically. So I'll throw in the description. We have a live stream up, and it was a box tournament, 4 rounds of Swiss and 2 rounds of Top Cut. I ended up getting second. I ended up losing to Blue Dofi, but that day specifically, I played against 4 Blue Dofis, and I went 3-1 against Blue Dofis. And 3 of my games were streamed. So if I link the stream over, you guys can take a look at my gameplay. Also check out our stream, because our stream, we're trying to upgrade. We got hand cams now, so definitely check it out. But you kind of watch how I played against those. Maybe I'll review them one day. If you guys want me to, let me know in the comments if I should go over kind of how I played and my thought process through the motions. But check out the description though for the gameplay. You'll see bookmarks and stuff when on the streams. You can skip and fast forward to the different games. You'll see it. But enough chit chat about that. Let's go into the key cards in the blue matchup. For this one, you got 7 cost Hody Jones, 8 cost Rosinante, 9 cost Zoro, 10 drop Dofi. These are some of the cards you mulligan for the most part. Mainly, I'm always looking for a 10 cost. That 10 cost is so good in the deck. Along with that, when in regards to when to go, you prefer to go first besides going second because their going first curve is so lethal, and them being able to play gravity blade on curve, it's bad. You're going first, you play out a searcher your turn one, next turn you search, you do your thing, right? Turn five, the curve you're looking at going first is Cavendish into Hody Jones into 9 cost Zoro or 8 cost Rosinante. 8 cost Rosinante might be better than 9 cost Zoro because they can just red rock the Zoro. But if you play Rosinante out with another 5 cost, your board is so wide because at that point, you go your 5 down, you play the Cavendish, whatever, right? They're not going to answer it. Next turn, you go Hody Jones. They can't go Gravity Blade and get value off of it like they would if you were to go second, where you go your Rouge into Hawkins or any of the other 5 costs. They go Gravity Blade is gone. See you later, right? You're cooked after that at that point. But if you go first, you go 5 costs and a 7 cost, and then let alone into an 8 into a 5, your tempo is insane because they're not going to have any big bodies to answer these guys, let alone Gravity Blade doesn't work, and they're not going to waste a Red Rock on your Hody Jones or your Rosinante because they're holding it for a Zoro or a 10 cost. And so if you're tempoing them out at the end with your 7 cost Hody or your 8 cost Rosinante on board, you drop the 10 drop or a 9, it's pretty much game. You're controlling board the entire time. You got to make sure you stay healthy, especially if you drop a Hody Jones. You counter out everything for the most part. Even their first initial 7K swing, if they are going first, if I have the counters in hand, like a 2K, 1K, or a 0 cost event, I try to counter out only because the pudding is so lethal. And you'll see some of the footage. I get pudding and it hurts me so bad. And it puts me in such a bad spot because if you start taking your life off that first 7K swing, you're up to 6 cards. You draw into your 7th. You play a card or you search out, right? Your 6 or whatever, right? They swing your life again, you take again, they put in you, it's over. And you're already behind by a lot. And so you have to play around the pudding in order to do that. They could put in you if you search 10 drop out multiple times, but at that point, if you're sitting on 5 cards still, or maybe even less, they're going to be less inclined to drop it, and so that's why that's so important. But at the end of the day, you got to drop the high cost here against the blue matchup. That's what's going to win you the game. And so now we're going to rotate into cards you got to look out for in the blue matchup because there's so many good ones, right? So we're looking at the 4 cost Pudding, the 6 cost Boa, 6 cost Red Rock, Gum Gum Red Rock, the Gravity Blade Raging Tiger 7 cost event, and then the 10 drop Kaido. These are some of the more lethal cards in Blue's deck that kind of affects you. Obviously, they have their standard combos with Jinbei into Weevil and stuff like that, but those are just bodies I put on board. And when it comes to playing against Bonney, you always have ways to answer board or handle your board because the leader ability is almost always active every single time you end your turn. And so we'll go into the pudding play. I kind of already mentioned it before, but because the cost is so high, or not the cost, but if your hand size is high, that's why I don't like playing 8 cost Eustace Kit, because you like to take your life so you can sit down low and then counter out. You can't do that against this deck. It's impossible if they have the pudding, and then let alone if they red rock that thing to the bottom and you're pretty much cooked. 6 cost Boa. This one it's not as strong as these other ones, but I thought it'd be smart to include because there might be ways where you go 9 cost Zoro. I've had times where they've dropped Boa, froze it, dropped a second Boa, froze it, gave themselves time to adjust their stack, move the red rock to the top, red rock in the next turn. It's pretty brutal, and plus it's an AK body. It's hard to deal with, unfortunately. But that's something to look out for. Obviously, Red Rock, and we'll do Red Rock and Gravity Blade together because they both bottom deck. Gravity Blade, there's going to be times where you just play into it. And if they have it, they have it, right? And more often than not, they have it. It's so good because it makes your early game or your mid game so relevant, because this deck is able to tempo out bodies so easily for 3 Dawn. Go Jinbei off top, go Weevil, play it out. Let alone rest 4, play Jinbei from hand, play another character out. It's it's easy to get their cards back with this deck, and that's what makes it so good. That's why Gravity Blade is so good in this deck. Um, but the Red Rock obviously is, going to be detrimental if you put a 9 cost down, they bot deck it, or you put a 10 cost, they answer it, they bot deck it. But, that's just obviously something to look out for. Raging Tiger is more lethal, but another card that's, I'd say, on the same level as 7 cost Gravity Blade is 10 drop Kaido. I hate this card. This card makes me so mad sometimes. It's like, because you're playing to answer board a lot, they're going to be sitting on healthy life by the time 10 Dawn rolls around. It's unfortunate, but you have to play like that in order to win. Um, you Because of that, Kaido's not searchable. They only run it as a 2 of. But if they see it, obviously you're going to be in a bad spot. You have no way to answer this unless you have a 9 cost out and it's rested already. But that's such a specific scenario at that point. I don't know if you can really get that off. But other than that, is like they played it out and you just 10 cost freeze it, back to back it. And so that's your only way of answering. But this card coming out is pretty lethal. There was one play, if you check out the footage of the live stream, there was I was playing against Blue Dofi, and their 10 Dawn turn was rolling around. I was on my 9, or I was on my 10, I can't remember, but they were gonna be 10 Dawn next turn. I played out the Bonney and stunned a Dawn instead of stunning one of his characters, because I was like, I don't want to deal with this Kaido. Like, if it comes out right here, right now, I'm in such a bad spot. I'm in a horrible spot. And sure enough, crazy, he had the 10 Kaido, and it stopped him from playing it. And if he played the 10 Kaido, he would have won the game. But because of that, I stopped his 10 down play. Now, the next turn, I played aggressive into his life, put him down to 1, or I think I put him down to 0. He couldn't drop this. Or he might have ended up doing that, but either way, I still got it. But he dropped it too late. And so he needed the turn that I stunned the Dawn. So that's where Bonney comes up. Obviously, was that risky on my end? Because, like, if he didn't have the 10 cost, it would have been bad on my end. I should have just done the character. Yeah, but it came up, though. It worked out. You'll see in the final match when I played against GLG Garrett, he was also running Dofi. I did that same play because that's kind of all I had, or instead of stunning like one of his characters, because if the Kaido came out, would have been bad, but he didn't even have Kaido in his hand. So I was just, at that point, it's a risky game, but you got to do your best to prevent getting hit by this guy, because this guy's so strong. So it's pretty brutal. So the next ones, we're gonna go for the black matchup. I know typically Bonney has a hard time against black, but I have had a winning record against Lucci specifically lately. But it's only because the lineup here is so strong. So these are the cards you're looking at. Donquixote Rosinante, great card, 2 drop. And you got the 6 drop Hawkins and the 8 cost Rosinante and the 10 drop Dofi. Notice how 10 drop Dofi is in this list every time, because it's so good against your bad matchups. That's why you want to run this. That's why I have it at 4 right now, and I might even bump it up to 4 next set for the 08. But it really just depends on ratios at that point. But anyways, 2 cost Rosinante, if played correctly, can put you in a very advantageous state or spot against black players specifically. Because if you play it to where if a 5 cost stuck and you're able to put it down, you swing with it, or let alone Hawkins is out there, right? You can just put it out as some additional protection. Typically, unless they have like the 3 cost Brook already out, they don't have ways to remove 2 separate times a turn. Obviously, Lucci removes 2 things, but 2 separate, because this thing adds that additional protection for any rested character you have. It's great. So it does come up here and there. It's a great card to have. But the next card, this is probably the best card in this matchup, is 6 drop Hawkins. For those you don't know, right, this character, if it were to be removed from play by an opponent's effect, you can just rest one of your opponent's characters. Almost all of Lucci's removal is on play. However, they have been taking in the finger pistol. I hate that card. That's why I lost recently to a Lucci player. He had a finger pistol and he hit my Hawkins. And I think he played it twice. He only runs 2 and he saw both of them. It's brutal, because now they can swing with everyone and then go finger pistol. No other characters arrested. Another way they can remove it is with the 3 cost Brook, but it's very It's very rarely does that ever happen. Obviously, there's certain scenarios that it does, and it's great for them. But very rarely does that a way that they remove it. If you play two, let alone three to four of the Hawkins, you're pretty much gonna win the game. In the case tournament, I talked about that I won the semifinal round. I played against Lucci and I 3-0'd him. 3-0'd him only because I dropped three of the Hawkins. He had no way to answer it, and I kept swinging 7K at face. I never had him standing on my turn because I knew that I had leader ability to hold me up, and if they wanted to swing into Hawkins, he's a 7K body. Great. Go ahead and do that. Go swing in my life instead. I'm going to play aggressive against you to get your life low, to tempo you out and win. So 7 cost Hawkins is a great card. Just look out for that finger pistol, man. That card's so good. And then we're going into 8 cost Rosinante. Love this card. Love this card on curve. Going 6 Hawkins, and you don't have a second one, but you have Rosinante. You play Rosinante, play a Cavendish out. That's 6 Dawn right there, because Cavendish restands 2. And then you have protection on your Cavendish. It's these 2 cards, let alone going 6 Hawkins into 8 Rosinante, and then 10 Dawn turn go Dofi. The tempo is insane. It's just too crazy. It's too good. If they even choose to remove this guy, the 8 cost Rosinante, they don't remove your Hawkins or your 5 cost, whatever. You're pretty much chilling. Your bodies are gonna stick. That's the whole way to win against Lucci is play aggressive against them into their life, and if a, make sure you get bodies to be able to stick. If they stick, you win. If they don't, obviously that's how Lucci wins against any deck is they remove bodies and they never stick. So thankfully now that stage is gone, they have a harder time of removing the 10 cost and the 8 cost. Obviously they still can. It's still a way, but it's a lot harder now, less consistent. Black cards to look out for, like I mentioned before, finger pistol. I hate this card. This card is so good. They've only recently been using it, and it's been pretty detrimental to the to Bonney, just to hitting the Hawkins, you know. But other than that, 3 cost Brook, and you have 8 cost Isho and 8 cost Sabo. 3 cost Brook, like I said, this one is if it sticks, it can kill your Hawkins, and it's pretty annoying. But it's a 4K body. You just swing 6 over. They typically aren't going to counter out or save it. Obviously, you have the issue of Rebecca reviving it back, but that's a whole other story. But as long as you're able to remove it before the Hawkins comes out, because they always, if they're going first, they're going to drop this and kill a Bonney real quick on your board, you know, and then they're going to swing with the next turn. You tap it, or you tap the leader, depending on whatever. You have a way to answer it. Next one to worry about is it's 8 cost Isho. This card is really good against Bonney. Not only for the hand rip, but the fact that it minuses 3 cost, it's insane. This combined with stage back in the day was absolutely wild. They removed everything. Nothing stayed on board. Nothing stuck. But this card, because when it comes out, you really have no way of answering it. Even if you 10 drop Dofi stun it, it doesn't. You still can attach a Don -3 of all characters on board and then remove some guy. So that's still, it's something to be wary of when it does come out. Hopefully by then you've already been playing aggressive into their life, so they're kind of not looking to play an E-show, maybe play defensive, but it's all scenario and situational. But this card is pretty lethal when it's out on board. You can maybe a remedy would be 9 cost Zoro, but even then, that's something they can remove. That's how brutal this card is if it's already out. And then I think slept on card in this matchup is Sabo, 8 cost Sabo. Not too many decks run it anymore. Or not anymore, but they run it as like a 1 of, or maybe even less than 0. This card combined with leader ability and a Tempest Kick, you can remove a 7 cost and a 5 cost, and that's just like that's a lot of things in Bonney. That's a lot of things you can get in range, you know. And so this card removing 2 bodies at once it's pretty insane. It's pretty good. Yes, they trash a card, but clearing 2 bodies is clearing 2 bodies. You got to respect it. So that's kind of what we're looking at for that. So my final thoughts on Bonney, at least going into the OP08 format. I know I haven't really touched on any of the new decks coming in. I don't think any of the decks are going to be very strong besides maybe the yellow purple pudding. But even then, it's a 4 life leader. You can really put a timetable on them, and you could also just drop 5 cost Bonney and stop them from 10 drop Linlin coming out. You know, it's as simple as that. I do think this deck is top 3 going into next set. People that are interested, test it out now. Get the cards now, start testing it out, and then play testing against other people. But it's this deck, if you play the defensive route where you're playing more, or the conservative route where you're defending your life, or at least trying to stay at a higher life count so that when these big bodies come out, like Cody Jones 9 cost and 10 drop Dofi come out, you're in a good spot. You're in a winning position. No matter what deck you're playing against, these big bodies are going to be so tough to deal with unless they have automatic removal, right? But for the most part though, I'm really excited for the next set. I hope you guys are too. If you guys have any ideas, or you guys have, shared different ideas that you guys don't agree with me about some of my play styles or some of my ratios, let me know in the comments below. Like, I'm open. I want to get better with the deck too. So if you guys have some ideas, or if you guys enjoy the deck profile or like the deck profile, let me know too as well. If you guys want more content in regards to um, in-depth deck profiles. We got, for luckily for us, it's not just one person in the channel. We have a whole crew, guys. We have 6 people in our crew, and so they all pilot decks, and they're so strict about them. Garrett, I'm hoping eventually we can get him to put out some blue Dofi or blue purple Reiju, because he's so skilled with that, and it'd be great to share his knowledge with all you guys. And that's why I'm excited to share my knowledge with Bonney with you guys. So I'm really hoping, and I'm really excited for the way our channel is going. We always appreciate every single one of you that takes your time to watch those. So if you guys are at the end of the video, as always, remember to like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend. Grandma Gaming, out.